So I'm Brice, I'm French. I am based in Singapore. I founded in 2019 a company called Bizsu. And the goal of Bizsu is to help companies to make money by being more sustainable, to mix financial and sustainable aspects. And the way we do it is by supplying product and solutions to companies that come from countries around Singapore.
We know that you've studied finance and worked as a statistical engineer.
Yes.
And you have an agency specializing in football sponsorships, and you've worked in strategy for big corporations, but now you're involved in sustainability. So that's quite a lot of change. What exactly prompted this change, and how is it different from your other career paths?
Basically, I studied math and finance. Then I worked as statistical engineer when I was a student. Basically, didn't really want to work for a bank. I wasn't aligned with the values. Then I studied business and basically start my own business. I always been keen to work in sports, and actually I have several experiences in sports. And so basically with my partner based in Singapore, I launched it in Bangkok, and this is how we started. When this ended in Thailand, there was like a shock in the sense that the king died, and so basically the whole economy stopped. Basically from a day to another, we lost all our suppliers and all our clients. We were out of business. And so this is when I started to find a new idea for a potential future business. And I started to, by just saying what was around me in the herd of Bangkok, you just realize that there are a lot of things that are not going in the right direction. And so I started to make some research about basically waste management. And I have been fascinated by this. Decided at the time that I will stop what I was doing. I will stop working in football because this wasn't really helping the community, and I will work in sustainability. Basically, I started to work for several companies, and I wanted to lead some project in sustainability. And this way, the way we were doing it, it's basically by showing. I was myself internally showing my company that by stopping plastic bag, so by being more sustainable, we were actually making money. So the goal was to prove that we could make more money at some point, and as soon as we were sure of this, we could move forward. And so basically, it was for me like it was a game changer in the sense that it was the right time to think like, here there is something that do not really exist in this world. There is something that a lot of people, a lot of companies do not understand, which is by focusing on money, you actually find the right incentive to be more sustainable. And once you start to be more sustainable, you have this wheel of change, or you have this domino effect that everyone have to follow. And if you don't do it, basically, if you cannot take the step towards sustainability, where you might die, like companies that do not take the digital step fast enough, they do not exist anymore. Think about Kodak, for example. They were the inventor of digital photography, and they didn't want to actually do it because they were too scared of it. Where competitors did it, their consumers wanted it. Now they do not exist anymore, or do not really exist in photography anymore. Like in book industry, if only the inventor of the Kindle, is still there pretty much, right? If you for all the others, where it was quite problematic, and a lot of companies that did not push enough into the digital digital economy, where it was harder to retain their customers, and a lot of them do not exist anymore. Where it will happen exactly the same way with sustainability. If you do not listen to your customers, if you do not move fast enough in sustainability, in a few years you might just not exist, because your consumers will just live for competitors who are better than you on this aspect. Mm-hmm. And so basically, to come back to your earlier question, how could all these different experience that I had actually helped me to do this? Well, it's actually all the different experiences helped me in some ways to actually set up my company into this field later on. So I understood quite early on that I didn't want to work in a bank despite my background, and then this led me to develop some project and later on focus on sustainability. And then I worked for big companies where I understood concrete things like what's the need for companies, how do you deal with companies internally, how can you convince people to actually do the things that you want to do. Mostly when I was in charge of strategy, this helped me a lot, and this is actually crucial when you need to convince stakeholders. So actually all these different experiences that I had helped me to just, I would say, just just to help me to work better at what I'm doing now.
That was like quite a journey. I mean, hearing all of that, I feel like I lived it through you. And honestly, from what you said, what you did in Bangkok was amazing. And it kind of ties to what we believe in. You know how a lot of people say that, oh, like one person doing something won't matter. But the domino effect is so strong that once one person starts it, there's a whole chain that follows. So that's actually what we want people to see, that, you know what, you can be the one who makes the difference, just like you were the one who made the difference. The fact that you started and then there were suddenly 500 companies that stopped using plastic bags, that's amazing.
Because we all follow each other. We all look at each other, right? We all know what others are doing. And so basically, when you see a good action, you just want to do the same thing. It's human. It's just human thing. And so indeed, every step that you do, or you can just inspire other people to do the same thing.
Honestly, completely agreed. I just think it's very cool how you lived through all of that. And I know that you did say that all your experiences sort of contributed to the company you have right now, the person you are, and the way you've grown. But if you could go back and change anything, would there be anything that you would change, or maybe, you know, do something, I wouldn't say different, but maybe do something a little better?
Every experience is by definition a learning experience. So it's pretty hard to say from, you know, where I'm coming from, what I did, what I studied, or what I planned to do was actually linked to the person I was at that time. And just by doing different things, you see the world differently, and so then it makes you take some changes. I'm not also someone who really look at the past and regret what I did. I'm more into looking forward and do the things I really would like to do. So it's like, okay, this happened, and what should I do next, basically, to achieve what I want to do. It's more how I see it. So I wouldn't say I will change anything. Maybe I would learn more or read more.
That sounds so great, but yeah, I completely agree. I do think that all your experiences have been what's made like Bizsu so good, and like, you know, have brought you where you are right now.
What other alternative other than plastic did you suggest to this company?
Yeah, that's a good question. What we have done with sports retail, we changed from compostable bags. So at this time, we were the only one in the country to have this. It was something that existed in Europe, for example, but in Asia, not really. And so basically, we plan to have compostable bags, fully compostable. If you compost it at home in 6 months, you have nothing left anymore. And so basically, there were some debate about it in the sense that there was a cost that was of course higher. And also there was the issue of waste management, because all the organic waste is not really used in Thailand. And later on they changed for reusable bag. I think was actually a better move, because you can still change the waste, but if you still have a waste, well, you still have a problem. The goal is not to have waste at all. What we have done with Central Group is changing for paper bags. I don't think it's a way better solution. So it helps people understand that basically wasting plastic, it's not great. Then it doesn't help in terms of waste, really. In most companies, we try to reduce paper or recycle or reuse paper, and in the other hand, you have companies that actually want to use it more and more, and the best is actually to only reusable bag for this purpose.
We also encourage a lot of people to use like cloth bag that's reusable, that's not like one use and then you can't use it again, or if it gets dirty, then people might throw it and it becomes waste and stuff. So I think that's something that we really agree on.
Like, I mean, Antheia did have an article a few months ago about how single use is essentially the problem. When Jakarta banned plastic bags over here, single-use plastic bags, we wanted to talk about how compostable bags aren't exactly a solution. They're a distraction mostly to the main problem, which is of waste. So recently it was announced that Australia has also banned biodegradable bags and compostable bags. And just an idea from what you were saying, I believe that it is a good idea, right? But what challenges do you think they will face based on this decision that they have made?
We need to be careful, very careful with the terms that we use. Biodegradable doesn't mean compostable, and vice versa. In most cases, what we call biodegradable bags actually made of at least 90% of plastic. And so basically it just means that it will become microplastic very fast, degrades. I mean, biodegrades, because you have small percentages of plants in it. And so basically it will degrade faster, but the plastic still remain for years and years, if not forever. Well, then compostable should be 100% compostable, in the sense that if you put it in the soil, it disappears entirely and it will nourish the soil. If they ban biodegradable bag, clearly that's the good thing.
I believe it's biodegradable, compostable, and degradable. So all three have been banned by Australia.
Okay. Okay, good. Again, the goal is not to have waste. If you waste less, you still waste, right? You still have waste, right? If you are a killer and you kill less people, you are still a killer, right? If you have waste and you waste less, you are still a waster. Probably for this reason that they have done it. In most cases, not really suitable. So actually, bioplastic or compostable plastic, it's wonderful in different aspects. But for the purpose of shopping, for the purpose of retail, it's not exactly the best, I would say.
What would you say is the most significant difference between sustainable business and, business in general?
Yes. Businesses since 80s and 90s, the goal of companies is to increase shareholder values, right? So basically the goal is to give a lot to your shareholders. So the goal is to have massive amount, the highest amount of profit that you can give to your shareholders after every financial year. And the thing is, if you are a sustainable business where basically you will give much lower, if not nothing, to your shareholders, because because the goal is to perpetuate the business as much as possible. So if there is a lot of money that you somehow lose every year, and it's something that you do not use to actually help the business grow. It's only to make your shareholders happy as a CEO, to have them voting for you to stay in the company. So basically, a sustainable business will think over long term. And in most cases, most businesses, they will think about 1, 2, you have sometimes 10 years plan, but in most cases, it's like very short term. If you want to be a sustainable business, you need to think long term for your employees, for your community, for your customers, and for the planet. It means that a lot of actions or decisions that you are taking has to be towards this. So your employees, you need to actually train them and invest to train them. And the community, you need to make sure over a long term that the decision you are taking will not affect them. For your customers, you will make your image much better in order for them to stay, if not grow, and be very loyal to you. And for the planet as well, because of course, if you damage the planet and you use resources where you are also not helping yourself, not helping your company for years and decades to come. So the difference between business and sustainable business, I would say it's more into the term. Sustainable business will think long term, and conventional business will think much more short term.
But I have heard a lot of people say that, the environment does not belong in the corporate world, or there's no connection between the two, and there shouldn't be a connection between the two. There's also been the complete end of the spectrum where people do believe that, the environment has now become a part of the economy, but they participate in greenwashing. What is your opinion on that?
The thing is, if you do not understand sustainability, it will be hard for you to thrive in terms of business. If you think only short term, you will take only decisions that are good for you short term. And if you do not understand sustainability in your business, if you don't understand the link, we're too bad for you, I would say, because sustainability, it's a way for you to make business.
Honestly, that was a great analogy. I've never really thought of it that way, but yes, it definitely makes sense to me.
So last week, we actually had the honor to talk to Mr. Paul Lemeister, and he was telling us about the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance framework that they use in sustainable finance. Yes. So how do you think that same framework applies to other parts of the business, like the operations, the marketing, the HR? So how do you think we can incorporate the same framework into the other parts of the business as well?
Basically, it should be embedded in it. When you talk about ESG, you talk about same thing. Planet, you talk about your people, you talk about your community. So basically, people living around you, you talk about your customers, but over long term, on all the change, basically you have people, right? So you need to take care of people. To me, this is how you incorporated it. Then we also need to be careful with ESG, because now ESG is a buzzword, and now you say, yeah, we apply ESG. What does it mean? To me, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't tell me exactly what you do. It's concretely what you are doing. What are the values of the company?
I think your point is actually very, very important. Companies really have to think about everything they're doing and really incorporate all this into their core values.
Yes.
So, yeah.
You work in Bizsu, right? Where the slogan is where business meets sustainability. So Can you tell us a little bit more about the startup and, its vision and mission?
Yes. So basically, we help businesses to make money by being more sustainable. We work with different social enterprise in the region. We open a new market for them which is Singapore. We will import the product and we will distribute them to businesses in Singapore. We are working, for example, with Fair Price, the retail company, supermarkets, where we supply to them sustainable items, sustainable daily life items, I would say. We work with Shangri-La. The goal for them is to have dishes which are vegan and still high in proteins. And so we supply some spirulina product to them.
Honestly, that sounds like a great business idea. And landing Shangri-La as your first client was probably a good move.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
At least in Indonesia, we've noticed that sustainability has been a more recent conversation, and people have more recently been interested in giving veganism a chance and in general integrating sustainability into their lives. So have you seen some sort of change in consumption of vegan products or sustainable products through the course of your business, or has it stayed constant? Has the pandemic affected it in any way?
Well, yeah, so this is not new only for Indonesia, it's new everywhere on the planet actually. And the pandemic increased this a little bit. The trend for eating less meat, this is quite common in different regions, including Southeast Asia. Australia and New Zealand, they are focusing a lot on stopping plastic, single-use plastic, much more than anywhere else in the world. And you have other regions, Southeast Asia, where single-use plastic is not really yet a big issue, and eating less meat is more of a trend right now. We see also the sales of spirulina-based products increasing as well. It's vegan and very high in protein. There is actually, in the same amount, you have 4 times more protein in spirulina than in beef. For your health, it's way better as well, because meat or dairy, it's not very healthy over the long term, and also by the volume and the quantity that we eat. Then we see also reducing the energy efficiency. Overall on the planet, 20% of CO2 emission are linked to aircon. So it's actually more than agriculture industry, more than all the transportation on the planet, which is roughly around 15%. In Singapore, aircon, it's around 30% of the total CO2 emission. And so we see more and more companies and people trying to find ways to reduce this. It's also because we are in this business, of course. It's clearly a trend that I see everywhere, and in Singapore mostly.
But do you have any sort of advice for someone, the youth, I guess, getting into sustainability right now?
One thing is, one thing I have heard when I was a student myself is start small, think big. And I would say, start small, think big, but above all, start something. Because the hardest point is actually to start. So if you want to create something, no matter how big or small it should be, just start doing something. Then another aspect, which is to me very important, is being proactive. Be proactive in everything that you are doing. This will also keep you moving. I see a lot of people, they are, stuck in a company and stuff, and they're like, I'm not sure. It's been 2 years, 4 years. I don't really know what I'm doing. It's not exactly what I want to do. Well, just be very proactive and keep on the move. Another aspect, I would say, is focus. And actually, even more when you have your own business, focus is crucial. I have seen recently a CV with the quality of the person who was being good at multitasking. Where if you are good at multitasking, first, I don't know if really you can be good at multitasking. But what it means is that basically it's very hard for you to focus on something. And another I will say tips that I will give is to keep learning. learning is amazing. It releases endorphin when you learn new things, and this is something rather addictive. So yeah, that's the four tips that I will give.
I definitely think that was like my favorite part of the interview. I learned a lot from those tips itself. I think the biggest takeaway for me would be that above all, do something. And
Yes.
secondly, how important learning is, because we completely agree with that.
Yeah.
At Antheia, we continue to say that even as an organization, we are learning every single day. We're learning
Yes.
from our followers, we're learning from things around us, from our government, from everything, you know. And the 5 hours rule as a minimum, that is something that I want to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people would find that as great advice. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
Just to end things, what do you see as the future for sustainable businesses?
If companies do not take the step as fast as possible, they will die much faster than they think they will. Just because that's a trend which is here. This is what the market wants. If you don't listen to your customers, if you don't listen to the market, well, too bad for you. People will not wait for you.
Definitely, no company is too big to fall. We completely agree with that too. And
Yeah.
especially with how fast the sustainable movement is going, it's time that, you know, I hope that all industries kind of heed your words and realize that this is a race and they need to catch up in order to survive. But that pretty much marks the end of this conversation. Thank you so much, Brice, for joining us today. We couldn't be more honored to have you here and to talk to you about your business, to talk to you about sustainability.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say thank you so much for your time, and like Sam said, at Antheia we're always learning, and I think opportunities like this just, you know, give us a lot of insight and let us grow as people and help us gain a wider perspective, so you know we can pass the same message on to the people who follow us, to our audiences. So thank you so much for your time and for your insight.
It has been great listening to all the tips and all the knowledge that you've given. I think like a lot of people, when they watch this, I think they're gonna get really inspired.
Well, thanks a lot for these nice words. It makes me very happy. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed this time, actually. See you later.